There has been a continuous reading of global recession, by different news agencies and newspapers on regular basis. And we have seen global recession in 2023 won't have a direct impact on Indonesia. Is it not affecting Indonesia? We don't know. And what is the chance of a recession? What exactly the chances of recession? Whether it is 100% recession is going to happen or it is 70%. World Bank fears global recession in 2023. This is a report of World Bank and it is a CTV news. And also a recession is coming in 2023, and there are different news we have seen for so long. Even you can see 2 days ago, 21st October, very back, and September, and because keep on news coming in that okay, the global recession is going to happen and stock market is going to hit. Right, economics now expect a recession, job loss. This is very dangerous. There is also job loss. People are going to lose jobs. Why a recession by end 2023 should be the base case? So we are going to solve all these doubts and questions in today's session. Let us start the session. See, before we start the session, so let us understand, before we start discussing exactly whether the 2023 recession is going to happen or not, whether 2023 how it will be for India and for the global economy. So let us understand what is recession. Normally we heard this word recession. It was not new. When after COVID-19 we have faced huge recession, that is minus 7.4% recession in India after the COVID-19 triggered a lockdown. Right, it became so familiar now, recession. So recession, it is a period of temporary decline in the overall economic activity of an economy. This is very important. It is a period of temporary decline, which means short-term phenomena, temporary decline in the overall economic activity of an economy in a particular nation, or it may be a globe also. If same thing happens in the global level, it is called a global level recession. What do you mean by temporary? Temporary meaning how much? How many months? Because normally we know that we measure the economic activity in terms of GDP. If the gross domestic product real, which means real GDP, excluding the influence of inflation. Nominal GDP means including the inflation. Real GDP means excluding the inflation. If the GDP growth continuously decreases for 2 quarters. What do you mean by 2 quarters? It is for 6 months. Listen carefully. Let me write here. It is for 6 months. If the GDP or the real GDP of an economy decreases continuously for 6 months, it will be considered as an economy is in recession. So this is the real meaning of recession. Recession meaning it is a period of temporary decline in the overall economic activity of an economy, right? Continuous decline of the GDP, real GDP growth in an economy for 2 quarters, meaning 6 months. If an economy's growth decreases continuously for 6 months, it will be considered that economy is experiencing recession. Even Indian economy experienced recession actually after the COVID-19 triggered a lockdown. And Indian economy went back to minus 7.4% recession. This was a graph. This was the graph actually, because we have also considered called this recovery as a V-shaped recovery, because it was a fall to minus 7.4%, again we have recovered. Getting the point? So here, since we are discussing about global recession, whether we are going to experience a recession in 2023 is the question. Is it going to affect India? We are going to see. Reasons for recession. There is no specific reason for recession. Different recession happened in the past, have happened for different reasons. If you take 1929, the global recession, it has happened for stock market crash. Stock market crash. Second, 2008 global recession, it is happened for global financial meltdown. Because it is also called subprime crisis created by USA, or mortgage loan given by USA's banks created global economic recession all over the world. That is 2008. This is for financial reason. Financial crisis. That is a banking crisis. Think about it. And 2019, we all know COVID-19. COVID-19 triggered recession. And the upcoming one, expected, it will be because of inflation. It was expected, it will be because of inflation. But rather than inflation, there are other reasons also for the inflation or recession. Rather than inflation, there are other reasons also for the recession in 2023. Right? So we are going to see that with important data from International Monetary Fund. Reasons for recession in 2023, which means we are going to think and we are going to decide that recession is going to happen in 2023. Yes, recession is going to happen in 2023, but what kind of recession, what will be its effect, we'll see it a little bit later. So global economic activity is experiencing a broad-based and sharper than expected slowdown. It was not expected this much of slowdown is going to happen after 2019 COVID-19 lockdown. Because during COVID-19 lockdown, it was very obvious. We expected recession is going to happen. It has happened. But after that, there was a huge recovery all over the world. But still, we are seeing, okay, the global people, actually, the experts expected, economists expected, even the world expected, the recession will be under certain controllable limit, right? Under manageable level. But it is going beyond the expected level. Right. So with inflation higher than seen in several decades, which means we have not seen such a inflation for a past decades. Such a inflation has been experienced. The cost of living crisis is happening because inflation is happening. We know that. Because of the inflation only, the policy rates are keep on increasing. Even in USA, in India, and all over the world. And the cost of living crisis, because cost of living crisis is also big dangerous thing, because we have read in the newspapers that Canada food inflation is so huge, cost of living is so huge, and we have heard that people in Canada are stealing food. They're stealing food. Think about it. Which means there is a cost of living crisis, particularly for the least developed countries. They are facing this problem. Vulnerable nations, African nations, they are facing these problems, right? Tightening financial conditions in most regions actually. So these are all the reasons. Even tightening financial conditions. What do you mean by tightening financial conditions? Which means increasing the policy rates, such as repo rate and reverse repo rate. Repo rate and reverse repo rate both are interest rates. If interest rate in an economy increases, don't you think money circulation will decreases? Right? Inflation, see, because inflation is the main reason. Because of inflation, very high inflation, the countries in the world wanted to decrease the inflation. They're increasing the policy rates. That means they're increasing the interest rates. Because of inflation, they're increasing the interest rate. As the interest rate is increasing, it is money circulation decreasing. That is what is called tightening the financial conditions in the most of the regions, including India, USA, and many of the places, many of the countries actually. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is also one of the reasons. See, experts write, even International Monetary Fund writes that inflation is going to decrease in 2023. The global inflation is going to decrease in 2023, but the Russia's invasion of Ukraine and supply chain disruptions and COVID-19 pandemic, which is continuing still in many countries, is going to be the main reasons for recession in 2023. Getting the point? Because Russia's invasion created a lot of food shortage. Because Russia and Ukraine put together, they were exporting more than 28% of food grains in the world. Particularly, I'm talking about 28%, they were exporting wheat. Wheat exporters. If you put Ukraine and Russia put together, they were used to export more than 28%, which means Russia alone, amounted for 10.1 billion of, wheat exported to the world. That has been completely decreased because they have kept for their domestic consumption. Ukraine did the same, which means 28% of wheat supply into the global food is cut off, right? The lingering COVID-19 pandemic, and that is also a reason, and supply chain disruption. This is what I said, supply chain disruptions. Even if you take oil disruption is happening. Proper supply of oil is not happening because Russia is also important exporter of oil. But India took that advantage. What about other countries? Energy, particularly gas. Gas used to be supplied from Russia to particularly for European countries. Now European countries are thinking to go for new explorations for oil and other energy resources which they used to import from Russia. So there is a supply chain disruption. This is also a reason for recession. So listen carefully. Inflation is a reason, right? And cost of living crisis happening in the world is a reason. And tightening of financial policies, particularly financial conditions, particularly through repo and reverse repo rate by the central banks of all over the countries. They're increasing the interest rate, money circulation decreases, which means supply of fund is less and demand will be less in the economy. That is leading to recession, right? And Russia's invasion of Ukraine is a reason, and COVID-19 again is a reason, and supply chain disruption, as I mentioned about wheat, oil examples, are the reasons for the recession in 2023. Be clear. And what happens? What is actually happening? So the global growth is forecasted to slow from 6%. The growth is going to be slow from 6% to 3.2% in 2022 and 2.7% in 2023. This is not acceptable. This is what is an indication of global recession. We are going to be going to a recession. This is the weakest growth profile since 2001, except two situations. That is, the global financial crisis happened in 2008 and the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown triggered recession in 2019. Excluding these two periods, apart from 2001, we have not seen such a recession, which means it is also one of the important recessions we are going to face. Right? And we have a global projections given by International Monetary Fund, which is very important for us, right? The World Economic Outlook October 2022, this data is very important because see, global economy is 2021 6%, decreased to 3.2% in 2022, and 2023 is declining to 2.7%. Don't you think it is indication of global recession in 2023? So there is a recession in 2023. Right? So global recession for sure. And advanced economies like USA, etc., and advanced economies, well-developed economies. So 5.2% in 2021, 2022 decreased to 2.4%. They're already in recession. Remember, they're already in recession. And 2023, 1.1%, which means they are going to be affected a lot. And emerging economies like India, Indonesia, South Africa, Brazil, etc., so their countries 2021 6.6%, 2022 3.7%, and 2023 it will be 3.7%, which means kind of okay. These countries, emerging economies, are managing comparative to well-developed economies. And growth projections by region. This data I felt really very, very, very important. See, world we have seen. United States, you have a look, 5.7% 2021, 2022 1.6%, and 1% in 2023. Don't you think US is going to face a recession in 2023? Obviously. If you take Eurozone, 5.2%, excuse me, in 2021 and 2022 3.1%, 2023 0.5%. Eurozone is going to suffer a lot. Because see, if US is facing recession and Eurozone is facing this recession, it will, have their repercussions or effects on all over the world. If USA is facing recession, don't you think it will going to affect us also? Why? Because important, largest export partner of India is USA. Highest exports we do to USA, United States of America. Don't you think our exports will be decreased? If our export decreases, overall economic activity in production, GDP, everything decreases domestically, unemployment increases, it will also affect us. Think about it. And Middle East and Central Asia, that is also balancing 4.5%, 5% and 3.6%. Emerging and developing Asia 7.2, 4.4, 4.9, etc., etc., like that. What about India? India will be managing from 8.1% in 2021. It will be decreasing in 2023. Listen carefully. 2021 it was in 8.1%. 2023 it is going to decrease to 6.1% according to the International Monetary Fund. 6.1% means it will be in a slowdown, but not affected as affected the United States and European zones, which means we are in a safer zone. Getting the point? And sub-Saharan region and Latin America and Caribbean region, you can just have a look. And return to global growth is possible? Absolutely possible. There is a big S for this, because returning to the global growth is possible, but certain things we have to follow. We have to, because we require smart adaptive policies. What are the policies we have to implement? Stabilize the price, because price is so fluctuating, increasing. Particularly food prices are keep on increasing, which means inflation is happening. Indirectly they are saying control the inflation. Rather than writing straight away inflation, they are asking to stabilize the price. Stabilize the price is nothing but controlling the inflation. Decrease the inflation. Then if you decrease the inflation, then people in Canada no need to steal food. Remember, and address the record level of debt, because many economies are not able to pay their debt. Domestically, people are not able to pay the debt. Even countries, low developed countries, least developed countries and emerging economies are not able to pay the debt to developed nations. Even I have discussed this issue, because if you take the global G20 negotiations, in G20 they have started a common framework. You remember this? I have discussed. If you have not seen, you go and research in Rudresh Arthopadyaya YouTube channel. You will get this classes also. That is, I talked about G20 in question paper MCQs discussion. I talked about common framework. In the common framework, because many least developed countries have suffered to waive off or suspend the loan taken by the least developed countries by the developing countries. For example, I'm America, you are a least developed country, you have taken a loan, I am waiving off your loan. That is what is common framework started by G20 and Paris Club that we have discussed, you remember. So such things should happen more and more. This is a recommendation. Second, third one, protect the vulnerable groups, particularly women, children, least developed countries, vulnerable sections of the society. We have to protect them. And finally, fast track the road to green energy, which means we should not go and seek energy for coal, petroleum, etc. We have to go for renewable energies such as solar, wind energy, kinetic energy, hydroelectricity, etc. Getting the point? So these are the important points of thought I thought of discussing to you. I have discussed. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye. Meet you in the next video.